Hello everyone, my name is Jess and I wanted to talk to you today about a Buddhist perspective on Jesus. Jesus is a very powerful and popular figure in the West and in the whole world actually. And we should look at it, especially as Buddhists, if you purport to be a Buddhist, that we shouldn't discard it. Now, from the Buddhist perspective, we all have the ability to attain full enlightenment. Not just enlightenment for just yourself, but enlightenment, the Mahayana, which is the greater vehicle, enlightenment for all beings. And there's nobody who's exempt from that ability. Like, we're down to animals and ants and humans and the gods and goddesses or whatever. They all have the ability to become fully enlightened. They have perfect compassion, perfect love, perfect knowledge, perfect attainment, and achieve the Buddha body, the Dharmakaya body. So from that perspective, if you look at for example, Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion, is considered to be all of the compassion of all of the enlightened beings manifest into one being, that being Avalokiteshvara. So Avalokiteshvara exists as the kind of the archetype of compassion, not just an archetype, but an actual being of compassion manifest. And if you look at Manjushri from the Buddhist perspective, Manjushri represents all of the wisdom of all of the enlightened beings absorbed into one being, and that being Manjushri, and he represents the wisdom of all enlightened beings. They say he's Bodhisattva, but really, if you ask any Lama, he's really considered a full-blown Buddha. So the Buddha of wisdom is embodied by Manjushri. Now, what are Manjushri's qualities? All this wisdom and understanding of reality. What are the qualities of Avalokiteshvara? The greatest compassion, full compassion. And then when you look at someone like Jesus, you can see, well, what were Jesus's qualities? He had great forgiveness for the people who were harming him and not letting him teach his teachings. He had love for everyone, including the people who nailed him to the cross. He said, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." These are all the same qualities of a fully enlightened being. There's no difference, you see. Whenever these qualities are manifest, as Buddhists, we don't make distinctions between who it is. It's more about the level of the practitioner and the where they're at, and what if they have these qualities. Do they have the qualities of love and compassion, understanding, forgiveness, highly understanding and intelligent? So those qualities just are across the board are what, if you're a bodhisattva or a Buddha, those are the qualities that you would have. So Jesus had those qualities if you really look at it if you agree with what you've read about it and you say, oh, Jesus is very forgiving, he forgave the people who nailed him to the cross. These are all really positive aspects. And then, of course, all the miracle aspects that are written down about Jesus, that, he was able to walk on water and manifest food and wine. Those are also considered to be the miracle abilities of a fully enlightened being. So for me, as someone who grew up, going to Catholic church and who found a Buddhist teacher. I found about my Buddhist teacher when I was 21, and I'm older now. I'm 46 now. So fully enlightened beings are able to do all these different things, manifest different qualities, and teach people and help people. That is representative in the Buddha, and it's also representative in the actions of Jesus. So from that perspective, as someone who grew up going to Catholic church and then really hung out and fully studied with Tibetan Buddhist teachers, you don't have to make a distinction with Jesus as being somehow different, or, the canonical teachings of, like, say, the Catholic Church would say that, Jesus is a unique individual, that he was very unique, that there's only one of him like that, to be able to have that ability. But from the Buddhist perspective, we all can have that ability. And that, of course, that's going to be a disagreement from the theological perspective, perhaps. And maybe even heretical, considered heretical. But I wouldn't think of it as heretical. I think that we do have the potential to be fully immersed and submersed into the mind of God, which is, in other words, there's no separation between like God and man. And again, that's something that you could disagree with, but I see Jesus as another enlightened Buddha. He's a Buddha. Even my Tibetan teacher said, Gelik Rinpoche, he said, he was talking with Robert Thurman, the professor, about, and Thurman said, "Oh, Jesus is a bodhisattva," and then Rinpoche says, "Oh no, he's not a bodhisattva, he's a Buddha." He's like, "Oh," and then of course Thurman had to agree and acquiesce. Yeah, "Oh yes, he's a Buddha, So I guess the kind of the good news, that phrase, good news. The good news is as a Buddhist, nobody's rejecting Christ at all. In fact, it's the opposite. You're taking refuge in all enlightened beings, and Jesus being an enlightened being, therefore you're taking refuge. Take refuge in Jesus is no different than taking refuge in Buddha. You could argue that point. Of course, there's going to be differences in the theological views and stuff like that. But I'd also say that if you really accept the more esoteric versions of Christianity, like things that are described in the Gospel of Thomas, for example, which isn't considered to be a part of the Bible from a canonical standpoint, but other people would say, oh, it is one of the lost books of the Bible, it should be included. We'll just leave that open to debate. But within the Gospel of Thomas, it talks about Thomas being the twin of Jesus. Twin in this case, for me, means you're no different than Jesus, in the sense that when you really embody and work with Jesus, you become Jesus. When you're acting out in the ways that Jesus did, then there's no separation. Like if you're acting out of compassion, you're acting out to help other people, you're acting to you're forgiving people. In a way, you could almost say like it's almost like a kind of a Christian Vajrayana, Christian Tantra. Kind of funny, right? Funny thought, funny words, but it's just, think about it. If you are praying to Jesus and you're trying to become like Jesus, if you're really practicing correctly, then you merge with Jesus, and there is no differentiation. And from what we would say from the Buddha standpoint is the Buddha bodies, there's no differentiation in when you achieve the Buddha body. There's the Nirmanakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Dharmakaya. There's no edge to that body, that Buddha body. There's no like limit to it. It's limitless. It's completely transcendent and limitless. So because of that, you're one with the Buddha if you're practicing that. And you're one with Jesus. You're one with God. You're one with everything. So from that perspective, the Gospel of Thomas, the idea of being the twin, kind of the twin Thomas, the twin of Jesus, that in other words, you're kind of like, you're like duplicating. Jesus is like duplicating himself, in the sense that making everybody kind of come into the same kind of oneness with the Dharmakaya, like God. And I've seen that more and more, like kind of this idea, this perspective of kind of Christian Vajrayana type thing, where you don't become like Jesus, you become one with Jesus, right? How is that not possible? Like Jesus, the miracles that, and even Jesus said that you will do things greater than I. So how does that work? If you're, in other words, this idea of Christian Vajrayana comes up more and more where, I heard a priest say when I was at church recently with my sister, when you take out the trash, that's Jesus taking out the trash, because you're doing something like to help others. You're duplicating the works of Christ. In the same sense, you kind of like are duplicating his heart. And so from that perspective, and that's what I get when I hear about like the Gospel of Thomas talking about Thomas the twin. That's what I think is implied. Of course, that's my own perspective. I wouldn't expect people to just buy into it. I think you should explore it and investigate. But that is what I basically see it as, and that we can really integrate with our, Christian teachings into Buddhism and Buddhist teachings into Christianity. But, of course, at the same time, like His Holiness Dalai Lama says, you don't want to, make one kind of mishmash religion, but you can honor and understand and gain knowledge from both traditions without betraying either of them, And I think, that's really all I wanted to say. Jesus and Buddha, ultimately the same. Yeah, maybe that's a strange thing to say, but I'm saying it. That's what I think. Anyways, you guys, have a good one.